Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our fifth episode of the business case for Polkadot. Today, I'm very excited to welcome our guest, William Chan, the CEO of Talisman and the Signet business owner. He has the first-hand experience with managing fully on-chain entities, including treasury management, distributed workforce compensation process, and other internal financial and operational processes, both on Polkadot and Ethereum. William is one of the first being onboarded to a program called Decentralized Voices and the steward of the Polkadot governance. He is also a graduate of Polkadot Blockchain Academy, Hong Kong chapter in January 2024. He holds an MBA and Computer Science degree from leading institutions. And William is one of the most prominent and active people in Polkadot ecosystem, who's been also helping a lot in mentoring graduates for Polkadot Blockchain Academy. We've heard about him in the past episode. And today we're going to talk about Talisman Wallet, about William's experience at PBA Hong Kong, and about his personal story. How did he get into the blockchain space? So I'm going to welcome William on stage. Hi, William.
Hello, William here. Thank you, Arena. And it's great to be there. It's great to be here. I want to say hello to everybody in Polkadot, say hello to my PBA friends. I'd love to talk about all of those things.
Amazing. So let's start with your personal story, William. How did you get into the blockchain space? What brought you in our ecosystem as well, Polkadot?
For me, I guess it was back a few years ago, probably around the end of 2020. I was working on some startups, and I was wondering, how can we fund these startups? And so I happened to have some Bitcoin, and so I saw that you could put it in BlockFi and you could make a nice return. Then I dug a little bit deeper, and so I was like, how does BlockFi get these returns? And so it kind of like drew me down the rabbit hole into Ethereum, and I really got sucked in. So, just looking at all of the ways to incentivize network effects, to put your funds in liquidity pools, all of the new projects launching. And pretty much once I discovered that, I couldn't do anything else, and I dropped everything, and then I just was in that for probably 9 months, every day, just looking for new projects, being in Discords, trying to get in on day one. And of course, during that time, there was like the NFT boom, maybe the second half of that. And what I realized was that I realized how much blockchain can actually change the financial system. Because I'm from the US, so in some ways it's kind of a privileged society with a lot of financial benefits for users. And for example, if you need to get a mortgage or you need some financial services, you can do that, and it can help upgrade your life. But in order to get access to those, you need a certain level of assets, right? Maybe you need enough money to make a down payment. But in crypto, you have those same financial tools, but they're open to anybody with any amount of money, right? So maybe you can take like a fraction of a Bitcoin and use that as collateral, or use that to earn more money. And so that was, I got drawn in by all of the excitement and the, liquidity mining and all of that. But over time, I realized that, it can actually bring something out to the world to people that don't have access to that. And so, after probably about 9 months, I was a little bit tired of, the, yield farming and having to, recycle your position every day. And so I started to look for a position where I could actually, be on the building side rather than just sort of the, retail user side. And that actually led me to Talisman, who was, looking for somebody. And so that I didn't really have an introduction to Polkadot before that, but so my entry to Talisman was really my onboarding into the Polkadot ecosystem, and pretty much for the last probably more than 18 months now, it's been, fully Polkadot, right? First building out maybe the internal parts of Talisman. How do we manage our on-chain operations? How do we actually run an organization? And actually, Talisman now is fully on-chain, right? So there is no fiat presence. That's one of the things that we migrated to. And so figuring out how to run a business without the normal, services that you get from the financial system, but it also allows us to live this life that we're creating for different people. So yeah, that was my journey in. And of course, I after some time, I went to PBA in January, and I think that's where I learned a little bit more deeply about, the internals of Polkadot. And then, that's a quick intro.
Yeah, I would like to dive deeper into your experience at PBA. Why did you decide to join, and how was the admission process? If you could tell us a little bit more of behind the scenes and what future students can expect when joining PBA.
Definitely. I had known some people that attended the PBA and actually worked with them before. So that's when that's sort of when it first came onto my radar. But it really happened when the PBA was going to be announced to be in Asia the next year. And so, when that happened, I thought, hey, Hong Kong is quite close to the place that I live, which is in Taipei. And so I decided to apply. And because as part of Talisman, we had done some hiring of PBA students before. Then I had a little bit of familiarity with the team and could find out about the program. And so that led me to apply there. And I didn't really know what to expect too much there. But I knew, hey, this is a chance to be to learn about Polkadot, to be there, in this environment for a month, and yeah, that's what brought me in. I guess in terms of getting prepared to go to PBA or what you actually expect, when I went, it was from the very beginning, it was incredibly intense, right? So, it's like you move to this place with 100 other people, and from day one, or let's say day two, you are in class for 8 hours a day for 6 days a week. And in some ways it's like college, right? It kind of feels academic. It feels like you're in lectures. It feels like you're raising your hand in class to ask questions, just like that. So in some ways it's like a blast from the past, but actually in some ways it's more intense, because in college I don't think you're in class that much, right? Maybe you're in class a few hours a day, but beyond that, you are also living with these people, right? So you're in the same hotel, you have breakfast with them that you can talk, you're in class all day, you have lunch, then you have more class, then you have dinner. And so it's really a chance to get to know other people at a much deeper level that you don't really get a chance to do in your professional life anymore, right? Like when you kind of grow up and you leave college. I think the only other experience similar to that is kind of when I went to do my MBA, right? There you kind of take some time off, and you live with these people for quite a while. So it's like a mini experience of that. But I think it was invaluable time to understand other people's motivations, what they're doing, how they look at Polkadot, what they want to build, and talk about how you're going to build together, right? Because everybody is doing something in a little bit different area in the ecosystem. And so you can learn how that area works, and then you can figure out how, your things fit together. And then you build a lot of trust, right? So in blockchain, you you don't really see anybody. Most of us are all remote. In fact, I at that time in January, I think I almost hadn't met anybody in Talisman, despite working with them for a year and a half. And so this was actually, the most people I've met in detail in crypto, in Polkadot, right? So in some ways, it's like a crypto family that I know even better than some of the people that I was working with. So
And what
I
was
think
your
that's that's.
what was the
Yes.
highlight of the PBA? What were some of the lectures that you enjoyed the most, presentations, or what kind of knowledge you consider the most valuable that you took home from the PBA Hong Kong?
Yeah, I think the highlight was just being there, right? Just being in an environment that was, outside of everything else, outside of all of the normal, life distractions, being able to focus and be with a bunch of other, people that are on that same journey with you. So I don't know about any, lectures come and go, right? Sometimes there's lots of equations in the lectures. Sometimes, it's about game theory. Sometimes it's about how Polkadot works. And so I think those are, you know, those are interesting and important, right? And it makes you understand Polkadot at a deeper level. But I think the top thing is just the chance to build relationships with a bunch of other people who are on the same journey with you, right? But kind of going in parallel. So I would say that's the main thing. There is a second thing, and the second thing, as I alluded to, is understanding Polkadot itself on a deeper level, I would say. Because coming into crypto, right, if you're just kind of on the retail side or if you're just a user, then there's a lot of marketing that's talking to you everywhere, right? On Twitter, there's people shilling different things, and maybe you feel like you align with one narrative or the other, but part of that is just marketing, part of that is just words that are flying around. So I think, at least for myself, sitting there and understanding the foundations, right, from cryptography to general blockchain, right, to how finalization works, to the game theory and the economics that go into the decisions, right, it sort of resets your mind to go past all of the marketing talk that's just on Twitter and understand at a deeper level, oh hey, this is what it's actually about underneath, and this is how Polkadot has made decisions that are different and more serious than, let's say, other blockchains, right, at building something for the world. And so I think that was really my realization coming out of it, was that hey, there is something special here in Polkadot that is very valuable, and it's not just a flash in the pan, it's not just, right, something trying to get the most users in a short time, but actually something is being built that needs to be built. And so I realized coming out of PBA that this is something that I should devote my time to, right? Not just because you can get rich soon or something, or you can trade your way to wealth, but because I align with the decisions made as to how it's built and what it's trying to achieve. And coming out of it, that is why I applied to be one of the decentralized voices, in order to give my time to help the network and to help it make decisions. And as Polkadot is transitioning, right, from whatever the 1.0 thing to all of these changes that are next, I realized that people need to step up and to kind of contribute and help to build out the next phase.
I could not agree more with this, William, because I just came back from Dubai, that Dr. Gavin Wood just launched Jam, and many other ecosystems say, well, it's not about technology, you need more marketing, you need business development, but the bottom line, the foundation, speaking from the architecture point of view, right? If you want to build a house that will last for centuries, you need to take care of the foundation. And I believe Polkadot is the kind of ecosystem that really takes care very well about its foundation, its community, governance, all the mechanisms that are fundamental to grow sustainably and to be resilient, really, on the level of technology, but also on the level of community. And I'm very proud to be part of the Polkadot ecosystem, as we are apparently world's largest DAO, largest decision-making group in the world. And all this is now transparent and accessible with open governance. Anybody can submit a proposal. We see racers applying without intermediary in the agency, football clubs applying to adopt Polkadot technology and to learn about it. And there's really a lot of education, a lot of connections, human connections, because it really, as you said, not just in the PBA, but generally, ecosystem is like a family. Everybody knows each other, everybody keeps in touch. Polkadot Decoded, which is coming in July this year, and guys, submissions for the talks are open, as well as the tickets are already available. So join us July 11. It's going to be in Brussels this year. And just come connect. William, are you going to be there?
I am planning to, yes. So this will be the first time I've been to Decoded.
Fantastic. So Decoded is more like, we have different types of events, and Decoded is really focusing on the end user, on people who are not technical, or people who are not crypto native or know a lot about the ecosystem. So it's really about everybody to come learn about business cases, use cases, teams, technology that's available for people to use for multiple purposes, whether it's financial services, NFTs, art, gaming. There's a lot going on in gaming. And it's really user-focused type of conference. And William, with that said, I would like to dive deeper into Talisman and tell us about your team. Who are your co-founders? Who's the team? And why and how did you decide to build Talisman? For what purpose?
Definitely. Well, I am not actually a founder of Talisman. That started before I joined the company. And so, there's a number of great founders. You can see them in previous Decoded talks. But actually, I'm the founder of the Signet initiative within Talisman. And so it has a pretty interesting story of something that was, nurtured and built up from Polkadot. And so, the story of Signet is actually quite interesting. It's about at the beginning of 2023, I think we realized that there was a need for an enterprise product, like to handle, teams and our own use, right? On the Ethereum side, there's Gnosis Safe, but on the Polkadot side, there's not really a tool that lets you kind of manage your money as an organization. And so we wanted to build this, or we were interested in doing it, but we didn't actually have the funding ourselves to do it, right? Because Talisman's team was working on building out the retail wallet and continuing to improve it. And so we actually applied to the treasury for a grant to build it. And we said, hey, here's a new idea. This is something that's needed. We've talked to these customers and these are the problems that they're having. And we found a person in our network who actually later went to the PBA, and he went right, during while the treasury proposal was being built, and we partnered with him, and we said, hey, Talisman is going to do some of the design and UI work and product work, and this guy Liam, who's a member of the fellowship now, is going to do the development part. And so that's how we actually got it off the ground. And so thanks to the Polkadot treasury, we were able to put a new idea out, vet it and bring it into practice. And so after that, Liam went on to work for Parity. So actually he is a great developer and he's contributing a lot to the Polkadot ecosystem now. But at Decoded then, later on that year, we actually got interest from some enterprise players, and they said, hey, can we use this for our own use, right? Because, nobody really has a great multi-sig tool that can handle an enterprise need. And so that's really what flipped our mind to saying, hey, how can we actually bring this to the next step, right? And so we still, we had to think, okay, we're going to bring a new team on. And so we scoured our network and we were able to find a great product manager and a great developer. But we still needed to pair that with funding. So what we did next was we went to the W3F and we said, hey, can we get a grant to build out this piece of the thing? And so they said, yes, of course we had to apply and go through the vetting process, but that was our next piece of funding to kind of like bring this in. And then after that, we went to Aleph Zero. And so Aleph Zero is a Substrate solo chain, but they have a very high enterprise focus. And so they actually funded us for another piece of the development. And then after that, we went to PBA. And so Signet was this idea that went to PBA. And so I spent the time at the PBA actually building out Signet to the next level. And in fact, Polkadot Blockchain Academy, the team itself became one of the first users because they are, as a decentralized team that is spinning out of parity and having to, run their operations themselves, but not really having a highly technical person there. They needed a tool that they could make payments, run their own operations. And so, that was a great result, I think, just of being at PBA, was that they were able to come on and give us feedback and then become a regular user that appreciated it. And then after that, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, just going back, because you're using some terminology that business people who are watching us may not be exactly familiar with. So you mentioned multisig. The Talisman is a multisig. Could you please explain in simple words, what is a multisig and what is it for?
Oh, definitely. So I'll start with a retail user, right? A retail user, an individual who's using crypto, will need to manage a private key, right? So all of blockchain and crypto is based on cryptography. And so you have this private key, you keep it safe. And then anytime you need to do something on the blockchain, you use that key to sign a transaction. And so, for instance, if you need to send funds from yourself to somebody else, then in order to prove that you're the one that can send them, you will use that private key. And so when you move to a business or an organization, you also need to use the blockchain in the same way. But if you only have one, basically anyone with the private key is able to use assets, to send them, to use the blockchain, to take your funds and to do something with them. So when you move to a business, you have a pot of funds that needs to be managed by the business, you can't just have one private key, because anybody that you give that key to, let's say your operations manager or your director of finance, right? That person will have full power to take those funds and do whatever they want to them, right? They could send it to themselves, they could send it to, a friend. And so in order to have a level of financial control as a business, there's a technology called a multi-sig. And so instead of having one private key, a multi-sig is an account where you need multiple people to sign off and approve anything that happens, right? So my company's treasury might have $1 million in it, right? And so in order to protect that, so no one person can steal the funds, then I will use a multi-sig. I will put that in a multi-sig account, and maybe there's 5 people that have been enabled to be part of this multi-sig, and I will set a threshold of 3 of those 5. So for any company operation that needs to be done, maybe I need to run payroll, then I will need 3 of those 5 people to approve. So it's a way to give a company or organization some level of financial control over the shared assets.
And how does onboarding work? So an enterprise comes to you and says, we need a multi-sig. How do you onboard them? Do you onboard them directly to Talisman, or there are some other steps to take?
Definitely, it really depends on how sophisticated they are with the knowledge of blockchain, right? Our multi-sig is actually compatible with other multi-sigs out there. And so if you already have a multi-sig, you can directly onboard to this product. You can go to polkadotmultisig.com and then just sign in with your multi-sig. If you are a decentralized team, right, like a small team like Talisman that's working in the ecosystem, then you generally can read up on resources and figure out what is needed and how to use the multi-sig. But if you're a larger enterprise or you're a Web2, or you have a few business level non-technical signers like, CEO, CFO, or board member, then we go in depth and we make a plan about, kind of training you on what the multi-sigs are, what the standard operating procedures are for how the signing works. Luckily, the product will smooth that all over, right? So a common problem is that, how does a signer know what they have to sign, or how do you know what the transaction is? And so we decode all of the transactions into a human readable format. So it's really like friendly to a non-technical person. But yeah, we will generally figure out the right onboarding and training that's needed for people to come in, and we're happy to help anybody understand what the technology is doing and yeah. But I would say for general operation, it's pretty intuitive, right? In terms of like the Talisman level UI that is there.
And is there a dashboard? So when companies sign their transactions, and you said they need to know what they're signing, so do they receive a document first and then they're directed to sign a transaction so they can read what they're actually signing, or how does that work?
Definitely. So we implemented a technology that's called sign-in with Substrate, and that's similar to sign-in with Ethereum. So that means you can log into this website using your signer, your private key. And so when you do that, we automatically pull all of your multi-sig details, and we will show you a dashboard that has, if there's any pending transactions, they will appear right there on the dashboard, so you can click in and look at them and sign. We also have a transaction history. So whatever has happened in the past, you can go back and say, oh, here's, payroll for March, here's payroll for, February. And then we have different modules in the UI for the different things that you might want to do. And we'll package whatever they're called extrinsics or whatever transactions that you need to do. Like maybe you need to send funds. So that will be its own module with a, clear user interface. Maybe you need to do a batch payment, right? Or a multi-send. And so you can just copy and paste in from a CSV, like where you prepare your transactions and then execute it. And so all of these are designed for like a business workflow process. So for a signer, it's very clear if there is a pending action to do, what you need to do. And then it's very clear what the past actions are.
Right, that's fantastic. So practically we are ready to onboard more enterprises on chain. And as you mentioned at the beginning of our talk, that Talisman is completely on chain now. So in terms of operations, what does this exactly mean, and how did you achieve this? How was the transition process from fiat operations to fully on-chain operations?
Yeah, it was, it was a little bit of a choice, because we wanted to live the, live fully in crypto and kind of dog food crypto as a company. And it caused us to really understand how we might need to do that. So, there's the need to, I think one consideration is, what are the different accounts that your company might want to have, right? You generally have a large treasury, right? That might come from investors, but you want to keep your large pot of funds in a place that has a higher threshold, right? So it's more protected, and it's not going to be used as often. And so you then probably want to have an operational pot of funds. And so, you set up an operational pot of funds with, that you regularly transfer from the main treasury. And it might have a lower threshold or have a different set of people that can actively do that. And then it's really about the general processes. So, of course, you need to run payroll. You might need to pay service providers. And so, that's generally okay. We are able to find suppliers that can take blockchain payments. but that can be difficult if you're really dealing with just off-chain. So occasionally we have to use somebody's credit card and then pay them back for those services that are like fully in Web 2. And beyond that, for the fully on-chain things, there's a lot. When you're participating, you are running validators, right? Your Talisman runs the largest nomination pools. So those are also fully managed from multi-sigs. And there's voting and governance, right? So all of these things form your on-chain presence. I would say beyond that, the only other tricky part was really figuring out how do we do the accounting, right? Because most accounting packages are aimed in US dollars or some fiat currency. And so, it's very particular, especially when you have, different stable coins that are like different cryptocurrencies, but they all kind of represent one US dollar. So yeah, we had to figure out a process of how to map, on-chain and crypto payments into a traditional accounting system so we can generate like regular financial reports. But yeah, that was figured out too. Happy to talk to anybody about how we handled that.
Fantastic. And as more and more companies are adopting stablecoins, for example, for payments, why is this happening? Well, because blockchain allows for much better transparency and accountability. So companies who really want to be transparent with their customers, they really take this step forward and show all the transactions on chain, all their funding on chain, so anybody can see and track, and it's completely accessible, transparent, and decentralized. And for example, Polkadot Blockchain Academy is one of these pioneering organizations that is fully on chain right now. All the operations are on chain, which is absolutely incredible that we've come as a society, as an ecosystem and community to the point where we can do something that revolutionary. Instead of obscurity, we come to light and we really put all the operations of chain, which is very brave, very unusual. And we're seeing more and more companies, traditional businesses, coming on chain, joining the treasury, learning about how everything works, security side of it, and deciding to become part of the blockchain of Web3 and work on a web that truly works, and abandon the broken web and all broken processes, right? So, William, I wanted to ask you about specific features of your solution. Is there anything that does not exist in other ecosystems, something super innovative, very different from what your competitors have to offer?
Definitely. I would say, we, in a sense, we differentiate ourselves by working at the human level, right? If you think about blockchain, right? Blockchain itself is, something that's designed for computers. And it's designed for like machine input, machine output, bits and bytes. And so if you actually look at blockchain transactions, there are these hex strings like a OX, and then a bunch of letters and numbers. And so it's really hard for people to understand what those are. Actually, it's impossible for people to understand directly what they are. And it's troublesome for people then to take those and translate it into like a human understandable level. And so I would say the first thing that we do is that we try to operate not at the blockchain level. Obviously, we have to have that taken care of in order to sign transactions and to process them. I would say most other, multi-sigs, that includes Gnosis Safe and includes many in the Polkadot ecosystem. They're working mostly at that level and with a little bit of user friendliness on top. But we try to go to the next level, right? And so, really think about not just how can I decode these bits and bytes into, something that looks a little bit more friendly. But we add another layer of understanding on top, right? So for instance, for a transaction, it's not just the date and time of the transaction and what the transaction is, but we allow the user to add context, right? So that might be a text string, that might be a description of the transaction, that might be a reason for why it happened. And so that human level of, the reason and the context is actually the thing that allows a signer to spend less time to understand what the transaction is and to approve it, right? Or to not approve it. And so, when you move to that level, you're really solving like a human understanding problem of what the blockchain is, rather than just reflecting what it is in a more friendly way. So I would say similarly to that, we also go into the business process level, right? And so, a decision to make a the problem with using multi-sigs in an organization is that it really centralizes the decision making into a few people, right? If you have, let's say, there's 5 signers on the organization. For an organization, those signers are going to be the CEO, the COO, the CFO, maybe some board members. And these are people that don't have a lot of time to dig into blockchain, don't have a lot of time to like decode the call data, decode the hex string, right? And so, the more time you ask them to do a very technical task, the less they're actually apt to do it, right? They'll just sign something blindly, or they just want to move the process along. In their organizations, they are used to trusting other people to vet transactions, to approve them, and then bring it to them for judgment. And so actually, the software that we built, Signet or Polkadot Multisig, allows you to institute that kind of process, right? So you can actually add a non-signer to the software to prepare transactions. So maybe you have a finance person that is preparing the payroll. So they're going to do all the calculations. They're going to figure out the right numbers. They can come into the software, input that as a draft, and they don't have signing power, so they can't approve it, but at least it's all prepared there. And then the actual people with the authority and decision-making in the organization can then make that process smooth of actually approving it, right? So I would say, it's that one level above, and that's enabled by us being a full web application. You might say a Web 2 style web application, but you need that extra data store, that extra context, that extra process in order to make things easier for a real business signer who's responsible for so many things to go smoothly, for the process to go smoothly.
So for the business owner, the whole process of managing a wallet and signing transactions is very familiar. It's their usual Web2 experience, browser, friendly user interface, and there's no additional onboarding needed. So it's pretty intuitive, right?
I would say it's very intuitive. And so it's not just the viewing and signing process that is intuitive, but they can take that same risk management process that they institute for their regular like Web 2 finance and have that in Web 3, right? If they had to learn a whole new process of, oh, this is how we decode transaction, this is how we do a multi-sig signature, right? If it's too foreign, that's actually a big barrier to adopting and using it. And if you can't implement the same risk management that you're used to, then that's almost a non-starter to adopt.
Right. And speaking about your ideal customer, what is your target market, and what are your next steps of onboarding new customers?
Yeah, so we actually have a two-pronged approach. I think at a base level, we think that Polkadot is way too difficult to use for businesses. It's actually something stopping new businesses to come on, and businesses, not just Web 2 businesses, but even teams that need to build in the ecosystem, right? It's difficult to figure out what multi-sig to use, how to set it up, how to actually make transactions move smoothly. So this software that we've developed, we're releasing it to everybody in the Polkadot ecosystem as Polkadot Multisig. And so it's open, anybody can use it. And we think that it's very important just to enable new teams and people to come into Polkadot and be able to think about their application or their chain or anything other than how we manage operations. So, that is something that we were funded by the DF to do and to release. But I would say, in terms of monetization, in terms of the business side, the main focus is, really larger enterprise users. So these are kind of foundations, these are devcos, they might have, 100, 200 people, they might, be managing the treasury for a blockchain ecosystem. And so there you have a lot of requirements around, risk and compliance, and, different things that you need to operate depending on what jurisdiction that you are. Things that you probably have in Web 2 in your normal banking software or financial software, but they're totally absent from Web 3. And so we build that layer on top of the multi-sig in order to, again, make it usable. And, whether it's reporting or compliance or risk management, our target, like business side, is for these larger organizations.
And how do you approach these organizations? Will you be doing some events? Will you be participating in some conferences? So we have right now 174 people watching us, mainly from LinkedIn, joining from LinkedIn. So there are lots of companies on LinkedIn, right? They're looking at blockchain, they're considering joining. So where can they find you in the next months to ask you questions, or where should they follow you or write to you?
Definitely happy to talk to anybody. If you want to, please reach out. And I think the main thing is there's a web page, signet.talisman.xyz. That's kind of a landing page, and there's a form that you can fill out to reach out, and we're pretty responsive on that. Happy to jump on a call. My email is william@talisman.xyz also. But I would say, right now our focus is crypto native businesses in Polkadot, and luckily, since we're a part of Talisman, then we have good outreach to all teams, and it's quite easy to find to contact us, and we're happy to talk to anybody just to answer questions or help you design your on-chain organization, or if you're wondering about how multi-sigs work, then we're always open to chat and point you in the right direction.
Thank you, William. So please, everybody, reach out, follow William on X, and send him an email with your questions if you want your organization to be more accountable and more transparent, and to have innovative tools for managing its financial operations. And William, I wanted to ask you this more of a general question. Where do you see Web3 going in the future? What is the direction? What is the sentiment for this bull market, as we are kind of stepping into the bull market? And again, the sentiment is positive. Many more builders are joining. There's more liquidity in the space, so there are more grants available. Web3 Foundation, for those of you who are interested in funding your projects, especially development, software development, using blockchain and Polkadot ecosystem, Web3 Foundation has a program called Decentralized Futures. Everybody can apply. Until June this year, applications are open. The fund is 40 million Swiss franc plus 5 million DOT. So pitch your ideas. Just Google Decentralized Futures or reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to guide you through the process. And everybody is welcome with innovative ideas. So William, back to you. What is the future of Web3?
Definitely. Well, it's definitely hard to predict the near future. And so, I guess that's why I am building and not trading. But for me, I think since I discovered Web3, I discovered a more efficient way to do a lot of the business. And I'll just give you an example. I used to work in credit card processing and building kind of fintech for kind of traditional. And there's so many middlemen that are needed to do a transaction where you send, just to do a credit card payment where one person is paying another person. And if you look at the protection that needs to happen around the credit card, the embedded device that needs to process the swipe and be protected, the transition of the data to the server, right? The server needs the whole process. The server needs to be PCI compliant. There's all these government regulations, all to protect the data flow. All of that is unnecessary with blockchain, right? And so, blockchain as a foundational level and using cryptography, it gives you a way to process a payment from one person to another without any of all of those businesses, all of those people working, all of the infrastructure that's needed, and that's provided as a shared good. And so that's one of the first things that I realized, kind of based on my experience, is that blockchain has the ability to make society function a lot more efficiently, right? And just because of a different basis of trust provided by the blockchain that's built out there. And longer term, I feel like the same thing can happen in society and business, right? So, not just payment processing, but also, assets, that get tokenized. So maybe ownership in different things like real estate or businesses or, memorabilia like in NFTs, right? So a lot of the things that we derive value from, assets, financial assets, are going to go onto blockchain because it's cheaper to do so. It's more flexible. You get a lot more capital efficiency by being able to use them in different ways. And so I think a lot of what we do in the traditional finance system will be, rebuilt on top of a blockchain foundation. And then for that to happen, businesses need to have tools in order to use all of those assets and manage them properly. And then a little bit farther out, right? I think a lot of decision making that happens can actually be coordinated with blockchain. We see an example in OpenGov today about decentralized organizations kind of in practice and how we can have a decision made from a large group of people who are kind of spread out everywhere. And I think that's another exciting aspect that combines community, it combines decision making, it combines finance and organizations.
And do you think which industry do you think will be most disrupted by in the nearest future? Would it be finance? How ready is the financial industry, since your background is in financial industry, or would it be real world assets or gaming, that we are talking so much about gaming these days, especially in Polkadot, because it seems to be the most ready to adopt blockchain and people are most excited about it. So where do you think we're going to go? More institutional way, targeting financial institutions or companies like real world asset tokenization, or something much more fun? And we're going back to meme coins again, sort of thing.
Yeah, I think for myself, it's difficult to say what is going to disrupt, right? I think probably gaming is a big one. But I think for the most part, like especially in finance, I think there's enough time and knowledge for existing financial players. There's enough entrenchment in that I think probably existing financial players will adopt blockchain rather than be displaced by it. So I think it's definitely coming. It's going to be a new foundation for our financial system. It's going to be a new foundation for kind of gaming. But, I think to a large part, the migration will be, I don't think, we'll see a revolution in how we do things, but I do think that they will be powered by blockchain.
Fantastic. And for those of you watching, the easiest way to join Polkadot ecosystem, and if you work for a company, if you're part of a financial organization or traditional consulting company or IT organization, We have a fantastic program in Polkadot Ecosystem. It's Ambassadors program. Now it is going all on chain fully as a collective. So we're going to manage all operations on chain, and the program aims to educate everyone about the benefits of blockchain, about Polkadot ecosystem, about multiple projects. And the most important value you get out of the program is that you will connect with the people who have been in this ecosystem for 5 years or so, builders, founders, and just active, amazing humans who want to change the world and wanted this place on Earth to be a much better place. William, a question to you. What would you advise aspiring founders, new founders who would like to join Polkadot Blockchain Academy and come to build in Polkadot ecosystem? What would be your most important advice to them?
Yeah, I would say, there are so many opportunities in Polkadot today. It's not easy to find them. It's not always easy to find, funding or understand. It's a very complex, understand how, the different organizations work, the Web3 Foundation, the Polkadot Treasury, OpenGov. But if you spend a little bit of time learning and getting familiar, there's so many opportunities to find funding, find support, and to help build out Polkadot. I guess the part 2 of that advice that I would give is that, Polkadot is a relatively new network, as all crypto is, right? It's kind of, in some ways, it's pre-product market fit, especially for the new Polkadot that's being built out. So the best way to get support is to really figure out the synergy of what you're doing and how that advances Polkadot, right? Because if you can really show that what you're building is going to bring something new to Polkadot, bring usage to Polkadot, bring the necessary infrastructure to Polkadot, right? Then Polkadot has a great treasury that's in different funding opportunities that's able to fund that, right? And so a lot of the difficulty is really, painting the picture of telling the story really of how, this, your project is going to grow and how it's going to help Polkadot grow. And so, there's really, a good meshing together, right? And there can be some joint success. And Polkadot is very happy to fund that and to fund things that help, spread it and grow it and make it more decentralized and build it into like a real foundation that it needs to be.
Absolutely. Everybody's welcome. We will find ways to collaborate and introduce you to fantastic teams like William and his team at Talisman and Signet. William, as we are coming to the closure of our live stream, I'd like to thank you for your insights and ask you for the closing remarks, how to connect with you, what's next, and yeah, just any closing remarks you want to share.
Well, thanks. Thank you so much, Rena. It's great to meet you today, and really appreciate the ability to be here and what we're doing here to educate people and to really help tell them about Polkadot. I've had my journey in the Polkadot ecosystem, and I have really come to appreciate what is being built at a lower level here, right? And so I think Polkadot is something with a lot of promise for the future. I think there's a lot of opportunity. I think it needs a lot of help, right? From all of us, all of you guys who are out there who are building and thinking about a home that you want to build on. So I want to kind of welcome you all there. For me, I'm happy to talk to anybody who's interested in finding out more. I can share any of my experience. I've gone through probably all of the different funding options in Polkadot, and I have, applied to them and received them, almost all. So happy to talk about the experience. I've been deep into OpenGov the past 3 months, and so happy to chat about that, to talk about what's working, what's not working, what is really the advice if somebody is looking to get funding, then where should they go? But yeah, please, follow Talisman on Twitter. I think it's at We Are Talisman. We have a great, there's a great Quest points program going on now. So definitely, figure out how to download Talisman, use it, earn your points. And for any teams out there or businesses that are interested in learning more about multisigs, we have an open version available at polkadotmultisig.com. And again, feel free to reach out to myself via Twitter or via any of the other channels that are out there. And happy to chat, happy to talk about any aspect of running the business. So thank you very much again.
Thank you, William. It's been a pleasure talking to you and learning from you. And thank you, everybody, for joining. We welcome you at this live stream every month, every last Thursday of the month. And we share live interviews with amazing founders in Polkadot Ecosystem who are also graduates of Polkadot Blockchain Academy. Right now, in May, Polkadot Blockchain Academy is coming to Singapore. So please follow Academy Polkadot on X and stay updated. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you all, and see you next month.